What's going on, guys? LoganJYA here with my boy SPK Ball Pit, aka Brody, aka my housemate, who went and topped our locals with the weirdest freaking tier element deck. What were you playing?
I was playing Tearalament FLUFFAL.
Hey yo, alright, and you've been playing FLUFFAL for a long time, yes?
Yeah, since the deck was attach Acts of Despair to Wolf and go.
So I think you guys are going to see some real good stuff from the FLUFFAL Master here. But without further ado, well, before we hop into the deck profile, any shout outs you want to give outside of to yourself?
So I'd have to say Mark from our local. Me and him have been making FLUFFAL great again for the history since the beginning of history. FLUFFAL Eldritch has come from us. This deck has come partially from us. We have a weird tri-variant of those decks that is not quite as proficient, but it's definitely fun.
Well, shout out to Baby Dragon for sure.
Oh yeah, for sure.
All right, well, you ready to get in a profile?
Absolutely. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and start off with the tier element stuff here. It's going to be a little off standard as far as the ratios go, but that's because of the other half of the deck that we're playing kind of covers for a lot of the weaknesses that this type of ratio would give you. So we're going to start off with 3 Sharon. It's a free body and free mills. Pretty straightforward. 3 copies of Merly, which is also more mills, and your target that you're mainly summoning off of Kit Kalos with its second effect if you get to use it. You're going to go into 2 copies of Reynard, which is the oddity in the list.
Yeah, why are you only doing 2 of this?
So I find 3 copies is bricky because I run 3 copies of all the searchers and you draw like 1,000 cards with this deck. So I never want to see more than 1 of it, and I can always search it with another name if needed.
Right.
And then 2 copies of the Hand Trap Havness because summoning window on your opponent's turn is very good.
Of course, of course.
And also, as many names as you can mill as possible is always productive.
Right.
Next, we're going to get into the FLUFFAL cards. Obviously, 3 copies of Dog to get us started. That's your Rhoda, that's your main starter, that's probably your best normal summon in the deck outside of Reinhardt, as far as that goes. And 3 copies of Wings, because this card is insane and says draw 2 cards and then search. Plus 3 feels really good. You got 2 copies of Penguin. This is your best fusion target, fusion material.
It's like the water hero, right?
Yeah. So as soon as you fusion with it, if it goes to grade, you draw 2, discard a card. What you can do is you can draw 2 and discard a tier element name, which will then let you fusion afterwards.
Yo! Now we're cooking.
Then we go into 2 copies of FLUFFAL Bear. This is your search target off Dog almost all the time because it's going to let you set your Toy Vendor, which is your engine, kind of draw a bunch of cards, search a bunch of things. Really lets you get some material going for you. And then 1 copy of FLUFFAL Dolphin. This card resets Toy Vendor and Foolishes an Edgem.
See, that's so annoying. Toy Vendor is not once per turn,
insane.
right?
Yeah, Toy Vendor is a soft once per turn. It's absolutely ridiculous. I'm actually going to run this at 2 going forward. Going to be cutting a card we run at 3 in the future because of just how good this card is. If I saw it more, I probably would have won my 4th game. Going into the Edgem names, we've got 2 Edgem Chain. I was running this at 3 during the tournament. This is what I'm cutting for that 2nd copy of Dolphin.
Got it.
This card lets you search Patchwork, lets you search Fright for Fusion, kind of enables you to go for your OTKs and search Poly so that you can do all sorts of crazy nonsense with the tier cards as well. You're gonna run 2 copies of Edgem Sabers. This card is your bread and butter. You need it to summon Tiger, which is your board breaker. You need it to make more bodies to go into your Scythe play later, so on and so forth. And then we're going to have 2 copies of Edgem Scythe. This card is absolutely broken. It broke the archetype open. It lets you Scythe your opponent. It lets you summon Tiger on your opponent's turn. It's absolutely obscene. Anything that lets you fusion on your opponent's turn is just ridiculous.
Right.
Next, we're going to go into, obviously, the Artifact Scythe. This card is broken, probably threatening a ban at some point, but for now it is very, very good. You can make it for basically free with 2 names and a Scythe in hand, and you're fine. And then the 1 copy of Shadal Beast for the tier element stuff to go into window.
Perfect. And now it's spell cards?
Yep, next is going to be the spells. 3 copies of Poly, so you can search them off of Fright for Patchwork. As well as just draw into them and activate them. Poly is really good. It lets you activate your tier elements if you fuse with them, so on and so forth. And 3 copies of Fright for Patchwork. This card lets you search Poly in an Edgem. It lets you set up for your Scythe play on your opponent's turn.
It's literally a +1.
Literally just a free +1. And best card in the deck, Toy Vendor, no question. This card is not a hard once per turn. Lets you draw a card, if you see a Tearalament name off the top with it, you get to fuse with it because it sends it to grave as an effect. If your opponent pops it or you pop it, you get to draw one or search a name. Absolutely obscene. 3 copies of the Tearalament field spell. This card is if you see this card, you have full combo, basically. It's pretty free. You just search a name and then you can use it to chain block your effects later on down the line. On top of that, one copy of Terraforming because
4th copy.
You want to see it. It's a 4th copy of it. I actually missed these before, but 2 copies of Fright for Fusion. I think this card's insane. Lets you make like 8-piece tiger, 8-piece tiger, like 9-piece wolf, so on and so forth later into the game. Then for the trap lineup, it's pretty straightforward. 1 copy of Meta Noise and 1 copy of Swaylick.
Got it. Okay, so which ones are these? Is this one?
So Swaylick is the continuous imperm.
Right.
And Meta Noise is the Book of Moon.
Oh, okay, so no counter trap?
No, so you'll never, you will have cards in your hand, but you'll never have a monster in your hand after you scythe your opponent going first.
Got it, okay.
Your ideal ending hand is a name, a FLUFFAL name, scythe, and a spell.
Got it. All right, let's go into the extra deck next.
Pretty standard as far as the tier stuff goes. We've got the 2 copies of Kit Kalos. You can go into search your stuff, summon your stuff, get free mills. Just a good card all around. 1 copy of Kaleidoheart. This card is actually gross. Shuffle something, if you pop it with something, or fusion with it for that matter, it brings itself back. It's just a lot of recurring annoyance to your opponent.
Oh, yes.
More or less. I'm going to go into the FLUFFAL stuff. 2 copies of Fright for Kraken.
Hey!
This card is a targeted send. It does not destroy, so you can get through things that say can't be destroyed. This card also is part of your OTK. It can swing twice, and it can swing after it uses its effect. It just can't attack directly the turn it uses its effect.
Got it, so it can swing to monsters.
Yes.
Just double checking.
Yes.
All right, cool.
Then we got the 1 copy of Fright for Tiger. This is a board breaker. You can pop like 9 cards with this if you have the right stuff for it.
Right.
And you can also summon this on your opponent's turn as well. This is a card I'm going to bump up to 2. This is Fright for Cruel Whale. This card is actually your scythe piece. You use scythe and a name, summon it, pop your scythe. It's a DPE effect on summon. Mm-hmm. You scythe, pop something on your field, something on your opponent's field, so you're popping your scythe and something on their field. And then on top of that, it has an attack gain effect for your OTK.
And you summon this off of the FLUFFAL or the Edgem Scythe in hand, right? Yep.
Yep. You activate Scythe in main phase to scythe your opponent on their turn.
Perfect.
You activate Scythe to scythe them.
It works out.
And you got the 1 copy of Fright for Daredevil. Most decks don't run this.
What does he do?
So this card does basically nothing on your turn when you summon it. What it does is it lets you send a 3k body off of Cruel Whale to gain 1500 attack. So you give this thing 1500, make it a 37 beat stick that swings twice.
Got it.
It's the biggest body outside of Chimera, and at least this one has a burn effect if you go into time.
Oh,
if
cheeky.
you summon it.
Perfect.
And then you have the 1 copy of Fright for Saber.
Reborn, right?
Sabertooth, which is a reborn of one of your Fright for monsters, which is actually absurd. So what you can do is you can activate this effect, the Kraken effect, send something, use it as material for this, bring it back, attack twice.
Sheesh. That's pretty good.
Now for the generic kind of fusion good stuff. 2 copies of Predaplant, Dragostapelia.
Oh, we know what this does.
This card is just a free monster negate that you can summon with any tier card or poly or whatever. 1 copy of Garura. Not actually as a super poly target in this deck, but as in case I open 2 Fiends. Mm-hmm. So if I have an Edge Imp in hand and Kaleidoheart on field, I can normal poly into this to get the Kaleidoheart effect to pop up, to go off.
Got it.
And 1 copy of Guardian Chimera because this card is insane.
Oh, yes.
It says pop 2, draw 1, draw 1, draw 2, pop 1, etc. A lot of the time you do have cards on both locations you need, so it's just a good card to go into. It can be really hard to get rid of. Can't be targeted. Now the 1 copy of Shadowwinda, obviously you're running the beast for that reason. And then your 1 copy of Dagda to set your scythe, or in the event you mill your scythe because you're milling a bunch of cards, you can pop the Dagda instead to bring it back on your opponent's turn.
Exactly. All right, is that full 15?
Yep.
Perfect. All right, let's see the side deck, wrap it up.
Yep, side deck. I didn't use a whole lot of it, but I used it in my first round and third round pretty heavily.
Got it.
So I run the 3 copies of
the golden ball.
Sphere Mode, which are for the Splite matchup. I think I'm going to run Lava Golem instead going forward. I think it's just easier to make because you don't need 3 monsters on board.
Right.
And I don't really need the normal summon. It's nice, but it's always better to just get rid of your opponent's stuff.
Right.
3 copies of Dark Ruler No More. I'm not manning it because I have a bunch of board breakers anyway if I go second in the deck itself. This is just more on top of that if I'm playing specifically against the Splite matchup. Got 3 copies of Ultimate Slayer.
Jeez.
This card destroys boards. You kind of just pick and choose what you don't want to deal with and just tell it no.
Yep.
And then I have some back row hate. I've got 2 copies of Twin Twister, 1 copy of Duster, and 1 copy of Red Reboot
Yep.
for Eldritch, etc. Then I've got actually extra deck targets. These are just funny targets that I had on me for the day. This can be any fusion, any synchro monster that does anything, and any Xyz monster that does anything. I'm thinking this is going to be a Wind Pegasus in the future. The Ad Ignister, because it lets you bounce something if one of your cards gets destroyed, and you're probably destroying your own cards anyway.
Right. All right. Well, Brody, this was an awesome, awesome creative take on the tier element strategy. What do you think you're going to do with this deck going forward?
So I know I'm going to be switching those things that I brought up in the profile. I'm also leaning towards potentially trying to turn it into a blind going second list at some point.
So you think you'll play some more board breakers maybe then?
Yeah, probably switch in some droplets because you can send stuff off droplets and go plus off of it because you can send bare wings and just kind of win if you open it. Droplets would be good. Spell and trap removal, lightning storm, stuff like that. Basic going second stuff. I think it's fine going first because obviously scythe locking your opponent is really good. Scythe lock Winda is almost an FTK against most things.
Right.
So it can kind of play either way. I may just play around with it and see what it does.
Gotcha. All right, guys. Well, if you have any questions for the Fluffal Master, be sure to throw them down in the comments. And don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. LoganJYA, sign off. Have a great day. I'll see you chumps later. Peace.
四角そう四角い空心の隙間埋め